Ragin Cajuns podcast. I'm Kevin Wilson, alongside two very, very, very special guests. Our Director of Marketing and External Engagement, Connor Whelan, and our Director of Ticket Operations, Matt Casbon. How you gents doing?
Can't complain.
Doing well.
Everybody feeling good? It's we got basketball, we got a little baseball and softball starting to merge together here.
It's crunch time, Kaz will tell you it's overlap season, so you just got to be ready to roll, but it's the nature of the business.
Yep. Everybody's home and away, and a lot of travel ahead of us, a lot of games ahead of us. But exciting times because as one season comes to a close, they'll prepare for postseason play, and then you got the kickoff of two brand new seasons, and a lot of optimism out there for all four programs.
For those of you looking at Matt Casbon and wondering, man, this guy looks familiar. It's because he is to the Ragin Cajun family, former baseball player on the team, a former Sun Belt Conference All-Tournament team member, all that good stuff. Tell us a little bit about your career and why you decided to stay here in Louisiana.
Real simple. I mean, my father played football for the Ragin Cajuns back in the late 60s and early 70s, and he settled down in this area as a high school coach of over 30 years. And we grew up Ragin Cajun fans, me and my two older brothers. And I was given the opportunity by Coach Robichaux to walk on for his program and eventually earn a scholarship. And as you hear him speak, his program teaches you a lot about on the field, but also off the field. And once my playing days were over, there were just some opportunities within the baseball program and then leading into a ticket opportunity. And just knew I wanted to stick around and be a part of the growth, be a part of a chance to do special things around here, not only for the university, but within the community as well. And people who come here, they embrace this area. And so it's just a wonderful opportunity to be a part of something special.
Staying here within the family, and your father played football. What position?
He was a defensive end.
Okay.
He came from Holy Cross High School in New Orleans, but met a young lady down from Abbeville, Louisiana, and that was that.
You played a little football yourself too, right?
I did. I played in high school. But my passion was always baseball. Him and I connected over football, but as long as I can remember, baseball was my first love.
You kind of glossed over football just now as if it was a sore spot for you or something. What position you play?
I played wide receiver. Our high school offense, known as the veer machine. Everybody knows the split back veer from Acadiana High School. And so
good blocking.
You better be a good blocker or you'll be a good stand on the sideline. Right. But no, a storied program in this area, have won multiple state championships since I left. And always an exciting time. High school football in this area, not only in Acadiana, but really throughout the state, is phenomenal. And very exciting times back in high school. Get back there, occasionally, I would say. And so nothing to gloss over there, but obviously a little more proud about what I was able to do on the diamond.
Now, Connor, he was playing. Your last season of baseball at Louisiana was 2007?
2007.
Connor, where were you in 2007?
In '07, I think I was a first grader at Hartwood Elementary School. No, not in '07. I wouldn't have been in first grade. I don't know. I'd have been in middle school, I think, actually.
You sure?
No, I'm not sure, but it'd be something in there. All I know is I'm a lot younger than Matt. That's for certain. '07. No, I don't know. It was a while ago.
After high school, what college did we go to?
Kent State University in Kent, Ohio.
Was that Julian Edelman?
Julian Edelman, yeah. James Harrison, Nick Saban.
Okay. Sorry to disrespect you on that.
Come on.
Bachelor's from there, but you continued your education, correct?
Bachelor's from there, yeah. And then my first job was at the University of Arkansas. And while I was there, I also got my MBA as well.
Awesome. So both of you guys either playing or at major universities, kind of seeing that fan engagement. Connor, I'll start with you. Kind of tell us a little bit about how you guys actually intertwine and work with each other on a daily basis.
Yeah, so especially on our external team, it feels like everybody works within a Venn diagram. And at some point or another, you're going to have a piece of overlap with somebody else. And on the ticketing side, on the sales side, the marketing plan side, myself and Matt have a lot of overlap there. So, we were just talking recently about men's basketball football ticket plan that we're putting together for some of the upcoming games. We just rolled it out yesterday, but myself, Matt, Nico, Yanko, we looked that over for days, going over the numbers and stuff, and just trying to make sure that we're making a good decision to not only increase revenue, which is one of the main pillars of what we do, but also to get more people involved and into the stadium.
And Matt, you being a veteran of the University of Louisiana, they hire a new director of marketing, and it's this kid from Kent State, Arkansas, and he's got his hands on the pulse immediately of what's growing. How do you feel about how Connor has done so far in ingratiating himself in the Cajun community?
When he came in the summertime and was tasked with putting together a viable marketing plan for a brand new head coach as well for the Ragin Cajuns football program, Billy Napier, and just seeing the time that he put into it, as well as asking for guidance from his other coworkers within his department, people outside of his department, asking me, looking at the data side, what's realistic? What can we accomplish here? Where can we stretch ourselves to bring in a new dynamic, a new demographic to our games? And you hear coaches say all the time that that home field advantage comes from the crowd being into it. You heard our players talking about how at the basketball game the other night, the crowd stood on their feet from the under 4 timeout to the end of the game, and they didn't sit back down. And that gave them an extra boost down the stretch, which they needed to pull out that victory. So what Connor's been able to do is bring some fresh ideas that he's seen from other places he's been, so that we don't always look at what we've always done here, because it's not always the best path to go down. You need those fresh ideas, and we've been able to put some in place. We've been able to look at some things we've done in the past that have been really successful and continue to implement those as well. But what we've seen so far through football season, through basketball season, what we've got upcoming, things are looking really, really good for not only us as employees, but what our fans are going to be able to see us doing from an entertainment side on the court, and also on the softball and baseball fields as well.
Connor, how tough was it for you? SEC football, Sun Belt football.
Well, it was a little bit more than that for me. The challenge of getting to come in here and actually be the guy for marketing, that program was phenomenal. I was in a secondary role at Arkansas, so I really got to get my hands around it. But also, while I have a ton of mentors from Arkansas, it was just different. There was, at Arkansas, if you're not familiar, my last year there, Brett Bielema was let go, and there was a lot of pessimism around the program. They weren't winning. Times were really tough, so it was tough. Like, we were just really just trying to get through the season, and then I come here, and it's the exact opposite. I mean, it was tons of optimism, and that optimism only grew, from the beginning of the season to the end, where I think we really peaked at the right time, certainly in conference play. But no, it was different for sure. When you look at marketing, you look at certain principles that work across the board, but obviously principles that work at the SEC level aren't going to work exactly the same at the Sun Belt level. So a lot of it for me was readapting my mindset and how can we adapt, common practices that work across the board, at least that I've seen, to a school that's a lot different. Like you said, the SEC and the Sun Belt, there's a lot of differences there. So it's definitely been a learning process for me, but it's been a ton of fun as well.
Game one, we have our game one of football. We have Grambling State come in. The bands are there. Crowd is electric. People standing, room only. Game two, it's like we lost 70% of that. Did your heart drop?
Not necessarily. I think that there was an expectation. We knew the crowd size was going to get smaller from Grambling to Coastal. That was the nature of what it was. But it was definitely disappointing that we did not see a bounce back like we certainly thought and hoped we would. But at the same time, I also understood why, we had some issues. And to point to one particular thing is is not the answer. This is football we're talking about. We're talking about a 41,000 seat stadium. There are many different facets that go into a fan's decision making process to go to a game. So, no, certainly it was disappointing. But Kaz will tell you, we just try and evaluate these things as we go along and get better. And I think we did get a little bit better as we went along. So, that's the big thing.
Matt, one of the big things we always hear and want to see is students coming out to the games, and just focusing on football right now. And we're looking at our current student section, and they're not there. Looking for more support from the students. What attributes to that, and what have we done to try to help that along?
Well, there's a lot of opportunity there, and it starts with our university bringing students back on campus through their housing initiative. So now we have all of these incoming freshmen. They're building the upper class facilities. So that's just an immediate advantage for us that we did not have, say, even 3 or 4 years ago. And so we have an opportunity to get in front of those housing organizations, but also I truly believe with our Greek organizations, they don't live in their houses, but they are located directly across from all of our athletic facilities. And so we need to encourage them to speak with their peers that may not be a part of an association, and get those people to embrace what we're trying to accomplish as far as building that in-game atmosphere at all of our venues. And so I think looking at those core groups that have a large quantity of students that are a part of an organization, that are dedicated to an organization, and then getting that to transfer over to Cajun Field, Cajun Dome, Lamson Park, Russo Park, even EK Long, for our volleyball games when they live on campus and those games are on campus. So I just think there's tremendous opportunity there. And obviously looking at a big factor is, what am I doing before the game and what am I going to do after the game? And that determines a lot of times for the student body, that encompasses their entire weekend. Am I going to the game, or is there something else on my schedule that I'm considering? And we need to do a better job of making sure that, how can we make our game their priority? And we've seen a nice bump for basketball this season on the men's and the women's side, which is great to see. And asking those students, what has you come into basketball that maybe you missed out on football, and then learning from that, seeing it transfer to our spring sports, and then obviously moving into fall of 19 with getting a significant bump from that first game where it's required for students to attend if they're part of campus organizations, to them wanting to attend as you get into games, 3, 4, 5, and 6, get them recommitted, because that also builds your fan base beyond graduation. And that's where we need to capture them in these 4 or 5 years that they may be on campus, and let them grab hold of something that they want to be a part of after they move on. I was able to do that as a student athlete here. And so, we need for them to understand the importance of being at the game, support their friends who may be on the team, but also looking down the road, they're the future of the Ragin Cajuns. They really are. And so we do have a lot of opportunity for growth. And the good thing is we have the space. We do not have to turn anyone away. We'll welcome them all.
And I think a lot of what Matt speaks on, people kind of hear that and say, just do it. Like, snap your fingers and just make it happen. But Connor, it's a lot more intricate than that.
It is. And, when I first got here, that was an immediate issue. Before I had ever seen the first football game, that was what I had been told by people that had worked here in the past, by people in the community, was that you have your freshman red run for game one, and then after that, the support kind of dwindles off. So for me, it was about evaluating why that's the case. Number one, we don't have a true student group yet. Number two, there's no form of reward system yet. And number three, it's hard for the students to grab ownership of something when there's not a structure already put in place. Because what you're essentially asking 17 to 23-year-olds to do is to just show up because, you're a real fan, What we have begun to do is form student leadership committees. So we've reached out to Student Government Association president, leaders on campus, Greek organizations, and we've tried to figure this thing out. And the first step of this is rolling out a new student organization, truly run by the students. Again, at the end of the day, look across the country, there's 130 FBS institutions. How many of them have manufactured student support by forming a group? The answer is 0. So the answer is not going to come from inside our athletic department. It's going to come from the students taking ownership of that. But what we can do to help that is build a structure, build a foundation, and give them the support to run it themselves and be successful. So we've already started that. Actually, the February 8th basketball game against Georgia State, we will have sign-up forms, and that's the first step, is just collecting information. How can we easily reach students via email, via text message, things of that nature? So that's step one, and again, even once that group forms, it's going to take a while. You know, these things don't happen overnight. It's not going to all of a sudden be night and day different next year, you know. But again, it's just about building that foundation and having new students, you know, when freshmen come on campus, getting them to buy in so that when they're seniors, kind of like Kaz talks about when they graduate, you know, but by the time that they're seniors, they're all in. You know, it's part of their weekly routine in the fall or in the winter.
How important is it for student athletes to look behind them and see a ton of people?
You can't really describe it, you know, to have that support day in and day out, knowing that, you know, you're putting in all this time that's not seen as a student athlete, just like students in any major they may have. You know, you put in all this time for your exams, and then you get your grade in the end, and it's successful or it's not. Well, student athletes are putting in all this time training, preparing for this one day where everyone can see them, and that's just the tip of the iceberg for them. So when they see that support, there's an extra boost of energy. When that stadium's rocking and that crowd is really into what is happening at the game, not just attending, but really into what's happening, you can't beat it. You can't beat it. As a former baseball player, it can get electric out there. And with a new stadium, with a bigger roof, there's just more sound and more noise. And so just judging from your own experiences, I'll never forget playing in a regional at Texas A&M, and I had been to a football game, so I knew the type of noise they make, but didn't anticipate them bringing that to a baseball stadium. It's just not what you see, but it was electric. And our crowds, especially with the way that, you know, we're bringing in these programs that they're nationally recognized, and we're bringing them into our facilities on the baseball and softball side, and to have that support against teams that eventually you're going to need to be able to beat in the postseason, you know, this will give you a good measure of where you are, and to have that support behind you, you really can't describe it.
Connor, what would that look like for us if we just fast forward and we've got our student section rocking? Would we have a name, or we like the Cameron Crazies? What's that look like to Connor?
There would be a name. We are working on that in the process. We had some concept ideas which are in the process of changing right now, but there will definitely be a name. You know, there are Power 5 schools, like, for instance, the Cameron Crazies.
Right.
They don't apply that name to football, right? So it's obviously just for Cameron Indoor Stadium. Ours would probably be across the board more so than like individual sports.
So are we talking, Connor? Are we like I don't know, Ragin? I don't know. This is
Ragin
you're the
Rowdies or
marketing guy.
something?
I got
right.
nothing.
That's right.
What are we thinking, Matt?
I mean, you got to tie into what they know when they get on campus. Something tied into the swamp, tied into, you know, the obviously food around here is a very, very big deal.
See, you're just throwing out idea like
you
random
want a
idea.
name?
Like give me what are we talking about here?
We had originally thrown out the name Crew of Culture, as in like KREWE.
Like a Mardi Gras crew.
Right.
How you feel about that, Matt?
It could work. We had one back in the day.
He doesn't like it.
It was now. It doesn't go across the board, but for baseball, you had the real UP. So they were the utility players, and they just, whatever you needed them to do, they were there to do it. And I just thought that was a funny name, but obviously not across the board. But you need something that they can embrace. And not saying I'm that much older than Connor, but Connor's a little closer to the demographic of our student body. And if you throw something at them, they'll embrace it or they'll push back.
Yeah.
Whereas if you start this student group and they can get the feedback of, you got 10 people on a committee, let's say, and they're getting feedback, then you come together. It's like, wait, now we got some buy-in because we let them take some ownership over
Let them
it.
handle it.
Right. No, but that is for real. I mean, we can come up with great names, but at the end of the day, I want it to be something that almost that they come up with within reason. I want it to be something that they're going to embrace, and the best way for them to embrace it is to come up with it themselves. So I think that's probably more the direction that we're leaning towards, but we're certainly in a really good spot with that right now.
Great job dodging that, guy. So on February 8th, huge basketball game in the Sun Belt. We got Louisiana hosting Georgia State, who's got some pro-level players on that team as well. It'll be on ESPN2, and we're looking to sell that thing out. How have things been going? Trying to get more people in the stands for that, and what do we have planned, the festivities?
I think you can expect a different level of energy. I'm just going to put that out there right now. There is just something about this rivalry since year one when Georgia State entered the conference. Every game that we play, you feel like it is for a championship. There's a level of excitement that our fans will bring into the Cajun Dome that night that you don't see against any other team. Part of that is when you get into a rivalry, there is an aspect of that 50-50. You don't really know who's going to win every time you step on the court. And that just raises the level of play on the court, but also raises the level of anticipation leading up to it. Us beating them in the finals of the conference tournament, them beating us in the conference tournament, the home and home series through conference play. And then obviously the coaching staff's very, very competitive, very animated when they're out there. And so everybody needs to raise it up a notch. And just judging by the level of play that we have right now, judging where they are in conference play right now, I expect a packed house, but also I expect a very vocal aspect to this game that you might not always get at a college basketball game. But there's just something about this game that people circled it early and knew how important it was going to be, not only just in the standings, but leading into postseason play.
Now, those who may not know, Connor, you're heavily involved in the actual in-game activity,
Yes.
running that whole situation. He's a guy on the sidelines in the suits, sometimes the velvet jackets.
right.
Connor, what do we have planned on this big night?
So we have a ton of things planned. Red Panda, who, if you're not familiar with Red Panda, you'll see her on SportsCenter a lot. She's the lady who rides the unicycle, throws the bowls from her feet to her head. I met Red Panda while working at Arkansas, so I knew her agent a little bit, and that was something that's a big deal. She's done the NBA Finals. She's, like I said, always on the internet. I saw Jay Billis, Coach Marlin retweeted Jay Billis tweeting about Red Panda the other day. So always a big deal to have her in the house, especially on national TV. So I reached out to her agent and I said, here's some dates we have lined up, but the big one is the national TV game. We'd really like to get this done. And he was phenomenal to work with. We got that thing locked in, and I know that everybody's been really excited about it. But it's also going to be our blackout game as well. So we'll give away T-shirts to students, and we encourage all of our fans to wear black. We want this thing to look awesome on national television. We want to show the country the noise level and the atmosphere that the Cajun Dome can provide. So again, there's just a lot of things going on. And lastly, I had a great conversation about this yesterday with some folks on campus. We're giving away a pair of Yeezys thanks to Sneaker Politics here in Lafayette. So the buzz about that on campus was much greater than I expected.
$1,000 shoes. Huh?
Yeah. So no, the student buzz around this game has been there's been more buzz about this Georgia State basketball game than, in my opinion, any other football game other than Grambling State. I mean, it seems that big to me. So I'm really, really fired up about this game, and I know it's something that a lot of students, a lot of Cajun fans are really looking forward to.
Key to that, Bob Marlin starting getting the winning back, especially after losing Malik Marquetti, finding that scoring and getting wins in the Sun Belt. So this game will be huge. Let's move on to your passion, Matt, the Diamond Sports. Baseball, softball expected to be fantastic this year. Baseball was just selected to win the Sun Belt West this upcoming year, voted in. How are we looking so far in filling in those stands for those big games?
I fully anticipate opening weekend to be, start the season off right, 3 straight capacity crowds. We with our new facility with Russo Park, there is an ability to have standing room only. So I will never say sellout. I'll say capacity crowds. We're not in the business of turning people away if we don't have to. And then obviously softball, the preseason accolades for softball and baseball are rolling in individually and the team honors. And so to have a top 25 program with a history a mile long of success. Looking forward to them hosting some Power 5 schools at Lamson Park. And then obviously everyone's goal, make it into that regional, and then you can do anything from there. But both sports have set themselves up to not only are their fan bases anticipating a lot, but I think based on recruiting, based on what the coaching staffs have been able to put together on both sides, as the weather gets warmer, everybody's gonna really enjoy the spring.
Does your position get easier when you have a power like a Tony Robichaux, a Jerry Glasgow, who's ever to continue the success from the previous regime? Does that help?
I wouldn't say it helps or hurts, because what these programs have done, Coach Rowe being here going into, I believe, his 25th season as a Ragin Cajuns head coach, and then Jerry going into his second. I think if those two figureheads are leading those programs, but would tell you in a second that without the support of the community and the fan base, they wouldn't have the programs that they have. And I think that's across the board. When this community in this area embraces something, and the passion you see, in a smaller venue where it's much more visible than, say, a 41,000 seat stadium, you see these people into pitch by pitch, the emotion and what they put into these games. And then you have the chants in both parks that people embrace. And then they take it on the road with them to someone's other park, and they're like, wait, you're going to bring that in here? And we're like, yeah, we are, because this is what we expect. We expect to be in regionals. We expect to compete for super regionals, and obviously make it to the pinnacle, Omaha and Oklahoma City.
Omaha, indeed, is a goal. And Connor, moving outdoors for those diamond sports where there's series, each week, is there a plan or a strategy that you have in place where you can kind of somehow preserve your good stuff but still have enough quality material in game throughout series?
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple of things. Number one, I think that there's 33 baseball home games. Am I right in that?
31.
31, sorry. I knew it's in the ballpark there for both baseball and softball. You have to have an understanding that you can't blow out every game, right? You can only do so much, but you do want a level of consistency across the board. If a fan comes for the Saturday night Texas game, or if they come for a midweek game against a lower level opponent, they still should receive, a great game day experience. But certainly our biggest games will align certain promotions with, and we're in the process of finalizing that now. But the beauty of both of our diamond sports is that there is so much tradition involved that I can be much more hands-off. We have an incredible fan base. When this job first came open, and I had heard about it, the one thing that I knew about this school was the baseball and softball success. And again, I didn't grow up in Arkansas. I didn't grow up in the South. I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I still knew about Louisiana baseball and softball. So that's the beauty of it is we have incredible fans. We don't have to go all out for every game as long as we provide a consistent, great experience across the board. That's what our fans know, and that's what our fans expect. So for the most part, we just try and keep it that way.
And we have a lot of people who kind of outside of the university who kind of feel like it's not every game is for them, or if it's some things cost too much, or what can we tell to the person who may be on a tighter budget about our experience and why it's important for them to spend that hard-earned dollar?
I think the beauty of baseball and softball is you can pick what days of the week and what times work for you, especially this year with softball moving into a weekend series versus just a single game and a doubleheader. For a family to commit to 2 games, which would encompass their entire day, might not work out. But what we have now is the ability, does a Tuesday night work for you, a Wednesday night, a Monday night, Friday, Saturday, Sunday? And I tell people all the time, you would think Friday night everyone's been gearing up, Friday nights would be your biggest crowd. But Saturday somehow always seems to creep in there and take over in an attendance wise on what Friday night did. And then if these 2 sports are going for the sweep on Sunday, people are literally walking in the front gate with their brooms, you're going to see people come out on Sunday. So our spring sports, unlike in the fall with football, you've got one shot at it. Saturday. Last year we had 6 Saturdays, but baseball and softball, if the season ticket option, you can't commit to 31 games or 21 games, you have the ability to pick and choose and come out when it fits your schedule and just enjoy the atmosphere and the great tradition of both of those programs. And we appreciate that support. And I know that the student athletes appreciate it as well.
Why would I come out to a game, Connor, when I can just watch it on television from the comfort of my own home?
In my experience, this is me personally. I'm a guy that just wants to go out and experience something. But this, especially in our diamond sports, is a totally different level. We're talking about 2 of the most historic programs in both college baseball and college softball in the entire country. Not in the group of 5, not in Louisiana, in the nation. That's something really special, and this community has embraced that. I just think it is unbelievable the level of what both of those programs have done over the years. It's something you have to see. My parents are flying down for a baseball game this year. My mom will get to see a softball game. Something I told them, you just have to see it once. It's really incredible. I got here in May, so I caught the tail end of baseball and softball, and it just blew me away. I couldn't believe it. So if you haven't been to one before, and I imagine if you're listening to this, you probably have, but bring a friend out, let them experience it, because it is really something. If you're a sports fan in this community, something that you do need to witness at some point.
You eating out here, Connor? You getting some of the...
Look, I'm 165 pounds, so I know it doesn't look like it, but
getting some of that Louisiana cuisine?
Absolutely.
What's your go-to?
Crawfish was surprisingly good. I would put that up top. I'd put that up top for me.
You respect his statement right now?
There's a limited time and a limited supply. So when you have the opportunity to take in a crawfish boil or 20, I would say, you don't pass up that opportunity, no.
Now, when you ate it, did you, because you're supposed to suck the head?
To your choosing. It's not mandatory or required.
Okay.
It's preference.
I thought that was a disrespectful thing.
I declined. I declined that.
So you just opened it and ate it, or how did?
Yeah.
Personally, I refuse to eat anything that looks like a insect. So I kind of avoided it, but I hear they're delicious, and maybe one day I'll try it. But so crawfish is your thing, gumbo?
Gumbo's good. I wouldn't put it up there at the very top, but it is good. Yeah, I would say actually alligator is very good too. I never had alligator until I came down here, and it is surprising.
Kevin, you didn't really embrace that alligator right there. You got anything to add?
I have the palate of a 5-year-old. Nuggets and fries, but gumbo with the potato salad. Never had that in my life until I came here. Changed my world. Now I can't have gumbo without.
It's very disappointing to consume a gumbo and not have that potato salad.
At this point in my life, absolutely.
You'll take that with you wherever you go.
Matt, were the New Orleans Saints cheated from a Super Bowl appearance?
Cheated is a very, very strong word, but I think there's no doubt that a blatant call was missed by all parties on the field and the referees, and the disappointment, I won't lie, still stings. Will probably sting for a while until we win another Super Bowl, because in all sports, professional, collegiate, high school, postseason play is not guaranteed. You have to earn that right to play in postseason and then compete for a championship. And so for that to be kind of taken away by something that even someone who doesn't understand the game of football could see that there was a problem there, a serious problem. And I just want some ownership over it. I just want someone to come out and publicly say, we screwed up. The Saints should be in the Super Bowl. And I don't think that's too much to ask.
Connor, how you feel about that?
He's not wrong. He's not wrong. That's disappointing. I'm certainly not a Saints fan like Kaz is. I have nothing against the Saints. It's just not who I grew up with. But I'll tell you what, I would be sick to my stomach if that was my team in that situation. So it's a heartbreaking situation. I feel really, really bad for all the fans, all the Saints fans. It's a tough situation.
Now, what about this? If the refs just out of the blue said, "Hey, we missed this call, but in return for you, what we'll do is we'll give you an extra quarter, okay? The first team that scores a touchdown automatically wins. If the first drive, you don't score, the next person who scores wins." If that was offered to you, would you take it and be happy with that?
So they admit the missed call, but then give us the overtime? Is that what you're leading into?
Oh, okay. Oh, so they did it.
So what you're saying is you want me to turn a blind eye to the missed call because you're still giving me an opportunity to win the game.
Okay, I didn't
What
want to fight.
What if the
here.
game would have already been over and we were just booking our flights to Atlanta and going down there to try to take down who some would consider the GOAT?
Who's your NFL team, Kevin? Just
Hey, I'm the unbiased host here. I'm just saying,
checking.
I just thought that an extra quarter would probably benefit if you were trying to make up for a call. But we'll end on this. Matt, you look a little snug right now.
I'm Kevin, you're gonna have some hard conversations with some people coming up here pretty soon, there, buddy.
Yeah, the crawfish into the Saints is kind of rough
You're
go for
probably
me
gonna
today.
get a lot of gumbo with no potato salad after this. Just saying.
That's uncalled for. We'll end on this. I'll start with you, Matt, as someone who's been a part of the Ragin Cajun family for over a decade now. You had 15 seconds to speak to someone in our community who just hasn't put forth the effort to come out to games. What would you say to them to get them to give back to our student athletes?
I think most importantly, embrace the hard work that they put into it and what they put out on their respective pitch, court, fields, whatever they may play on, and just fully appreciate the amount of time that they put in to their craft and to be able to bring pride and honor to this university, to the Ragin Cajuns name, and also to wherever they're from, because they all have a story, and take the time to really get to know them and embrace what they're doing in their lives that they're going to take with them when they're done here at UL.
Connor?
Just don't underappreciate the level of success that's been had by this program. It is, again, remarkable to me. You've got the Sun Belt West football champions. You've got a basketball team that just won 27 games. And historically, you have a top 25 baseball and softball program. There are programs around the nation that would absolutely die for that level of success. Appreciate that, and I think the best way that you can invest and give back is just by coming to a game. Like Matt said, just the best way you can support a student athlete is by showing up and showing them you care, showing them that you got their back. So certainly we hope to see all Ragin Cajun fans this spring and this upcoming fall.
Connor Whelan, Director of Marketing and External Engagement. Matt Casbon, Director of Ticket Operations. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Kevin.